fun. We've had a lot of fun. This is the sixth webinar we're doing. And I can say, frankly, not one webinar has had the same information throughout the last 6 or 7 weeks. Not one, because we've had so many changes and announcements from the Department of Ed and so much confusion. So I'll get started right away. Ion Tuition is a portal. It's a company that provides a front-end portal, and we were the first ones in 2013 to bring this forward, where all student loans were aggregated and provided self-service platform for students. We backed it up with a dedicated counselor team and online tools for loan repayment. We've done everything from first direct loan servicing to now the SAVE program, which we are supporting with brand new tools. Ion Tuition as a company also does enrollment management software and services. And we provide GradStat, which is a gainful employment related data collection and reporting platform and service for colleges and universities. Looks like that's going to be one more thing we all have to deal with if you're an institution. I love this slide. Now they've gone and done it. The Supreme Court said you cannot cancel student loans under the HEROES Act. Most of us, I think, anticipated that. Regardless of where we are in our political leaning, it seems good fiscal policy not to just not give $500 to $700 billion away and continue to do that so we're mopping the floor before we turn off the faucet. The SAVE plan. Now, here comes the backup. This was not as if the administration and Cardona did not have a plan, even though they said we have great legal standing and the Supreme Court will support us. Well, within the next 24 hours, they released the SAVE plan, 5% of your income and 10 years of repayment, after which everything is forgiven. And the income means test is 225%. So essentially, we're talking about if there are 30 million students and only 50% of them are on IDR under the SAVE plan, taxpayers will be paying off over $1 trillion of debt. They will be written off. The Center for Responsible Federal Budgeting has not done another study, neither has GAO. And we'll go through the policy impacts on that. The other thing they're trying to do is cancel loans via the compromise authority the secretary is given under the Higher Education Act. There are issues underneath too, but they are talking about rulemaking, which is interesting, but they're going to accelerate the rulemaking and publish this as soon as they can. So all of that is going on, and I've already had from other parents and friends, and actually one college student who's in a second year, what does this all mean for my buddies? Some of them have student loans. So now we have this. For the love of God, now what did you do? When should I pay? The first question students now have is, should I pay? When should I pay? And given that the intent, now we talked about canceling via compromise authority and the SAVE plan. I saw on Politico, I believe, that there might be a legal challenge, and they would have grounds for it, because a lot of times the intent of Congress is extended by agencies. Before in the last 15 years, the Office of Management and Budget has not done very much in the last 15 years. Examples of when agencies have to go through Congress to forgive debt would be the SBA's disaster loan program. For example, during Katrina, post-Katrina, they made a lot of loans. The SBA, by the way, has the largest inventory of pizza ovens in the country, and they can't sell it. Farm credits and farm subsidies. These are all approved by Congress through a budget process, appropriation or finance. And in this case, we're not sure that there will not be a legal challenge to SAVE or to the ramp up. Chaos. So we have this, lots of new plans. We still don't have implementation information. My son and Brent's daughter, we both maintain a small student loan balance. We tell them, please don't pay it off because we want to see what these servicers are doing. We haven't gotten a single bill or notice saying student loans repayment is starting. Nothing. My son got our email from Ion Tuition saying, hey, repayment is starting. And he goes, what is this? I said, don't worry about it. I got this. So, everybody's going to be affected. There are 2 million new students entering repayment between October 23 and March 25th, March of 24. And if you look at 2024, there's even more students entering repayment. This overloads the servicer and FSA inefficiencies. They're not ready. And the new students are going to be hurt more. It's first and last out, I think, in the manner in which we handle inventory on servicing. So here's a detail on the SAVE plan. We're going to send you calculators on this. Now we have, here's your repayment. At an income level of 30,000, no payments will be necessary based on the number of dependents and what your actual disposable income is, using cost of living index dependence and where you live. So a person that's paying 134 under the current repay plan, which will forgive your loan in 20 years, now we're going to have $43 a month and 10 years of repayment, assuming that they will have the same income. Even if their income goes up according to the inflation rate or whatever, as incomes are really don't beat inflation, you're still going to forgive more than 80% of a person's student loan that they've taken. And of course, if you cannot have negative amortization on a private student loan, it is perfectly okay for the federal government to say negative amortization is okay. If they didn't have the sovereignty protection, it would be very difficult for education to get away with this kind of liability that they put on the rest of the taxpayers. So borrowers on repay will be automatically enrolled. Those two things are in red for a reason. We have no idea how they will put those who are in repay in SAVE because they still have to find these borrowers. They still don't know where they are. 15 million of these borrowers have been transferred from 3 servicers to different servicers in the last 3 years. During COVID, in the entire 3.5 years, people have moved on average 1.5 times. So we don't know where these borrowers are. And if they change the payment arrangement, your bill may never get to them unless that student, that borrower connects with their new federal servicer. So there's a whole bunch of things the department has to do. They're making statements, and it's going to take them right into the election next year. IRS income integration with automatic recertification. The only way to get IRS data is to have an interagency data sharing agreement. The last data sharing agreement between agencies was between HHS and education when they got the information from the National Director of New Hires to garnish people's wages. Since then, they've done one integration on the prior income for your estimated family contribution on financial aid packaging. So they don't have any authority or right to do this, and it might take them 2 to 4 years to do that. Because IRS, in order to do this, recertification has to combine 17 different data from 17 systems to get it done. This is public information. They're not going to do it. And they might do it. It might take them a little more time than they think. They could go to Social Security, but SSA is not very friendly on sharing their data. We talked about federal servicers. The ramp up will help the servicers for sure, because nobody's delinquent or defaulting for the next 12 months. And if you only make 3 payments in the next 12 months, you're not going to be delinquent or defaulted. The department's going to forgive all of that. And then presumably on August 1st of 2024, now you have to start making current payments. Regardless of all of that, the servicers must still communicate to 33 million borrowers starting September 1st. And 30% of borrowers will call them in the first couple of weeks. The servicers will not be able to handle it. And that's going to be part of the confusion that we are going to have. Schools are going to get phone calls, and we're all going to have to figure out a way to deal with it. Here is our estimate. We did this internally based on the last repayment history and the roll rates of delinquencies and default between 2008 through 2019. And we project delinquencies by sector initially to go up in the first 270 days for for-profit institutions. We're talking about delinquency. Whether or not they are considered delinquent by the department, the number of non-payers or current payers will be over 80% for for-profit universities, so just under 70% for not-for-profits, and just under 60% for public universities. Community colleges are going to be significantly higher than anybody else. We did not bring them into our calculations. And the 3-year CDR projection for the 2023 cohort, 2024 CDR, we expect that first year to be 19% to 27% for-profit institutions, career technical education schools. And for the first time since 1989, 84, 85, 80, between 87 and 89, I believe, the default rate for student loans was well over 22%. Publics were at 17%. That's where we expect 2024 CDR to be. And this is disastrous for students because their forgiveness and cancellation are probably a non-starter for good. No one's going to be able to write off $2.5 trillion of debt by the time 2026 rolls around. And we now have a different look, a different Congress. And it doesn't matter who it is. Higher Education Act must be reauthorized in order to continue to do the funding, the manner in which they're doing it. So it's a lot of work to be done. So any questions thus far? I'll continue. So what we're doing, and we have been doing for the last 8 to 10 weeks, we've been getting ready. We've had 7 different starts. Well, we're going to have payment restart, then it's going to stop, then it's going to start, then it's going to stop. We've gone up and down, up and down. So over the last 3.5 years, we've had a lot of starts and stops under the red light and wait moments. So what we've done is take all of that information, all of the different things we've tried to do for every start, projected start, return to repayment, and all the things we used to do before. And the world has changed. People are different. So we created a approach where we'll create more technology that will support institutions and your borrowers, whether they're current students, those who are going to graduating into repayment, or the ones that graduated and will be in repayment and be part of your cohort default rate calculations. So we created a technology platform, a technology first platform, which we've always had, but we decided to run with ION as a front end, and then make sure that you all have support, the students have support with the human touch. We call it the R2R playbook because this is the way you can handle lots of volume and have less time and expense for all of us. What are we trying to fight here? It's a fight against free. This was a guy on the Hill that once told me, Raj, we're fighting against free. There is no way we can even try pilots that'll cost the Department of Education money. So over the last 4 years, we've had everybody, members of Congress, White House, the president using the bully pulpit, the Secretary of Education, and anybody that cared to run for an election, any public office. They all said student loans must be forgiven. Nobody had a plan on how you're going to finance higher education, but all they had to do was say they should be forgiven or canceled. So this is what we're fighting. Policy influences behavior, and we have to change the narrative. The feds aren't going to change the narrative, and we have to do it. For now, for the first time, higher educations are responsible to do this. So we first locate them. And it's going to be the hardest thing to do. The second thing we have to do is communicate. When you say locate, we have to find their email addresses. We can send them emails. The schools can send them emails. And then you find out whether they're undeliverable. Then we find out if the phone number works. And we can do that before they become delinquent, before they start repayment, or afterwards, while they're still in school and about to graduate. We need to get them on some platform. The school needs to get their current information that the information they're going to have for communicating with them after they leave school, after they graduate. All of that needs to happen now. And we need to continue to do that very aggressively for the next 18 months, because it is going to be the biggest factor in making sure our students can be successful with repayment. How do you communicate all of that? Start now. Start now, start it digitally, stop making expensive phone calls after they become 60 or 90 days delinquent. It becomes expensive to stop a default after they miss the first de minimis first payment. Visa, American Express, they've all proven it. And everybody will tell us from the private sector that if a person doesn't make the de minimis first payment, the likelihood of delinquency and default increases by 85%. Same thing with student loans. Communication plan. Often, very soon, clear and multi-channel. When I say clear, I was say this before, take a look at the one page the Department of Education has said in how the SAVE plan works. It starts with the word unlike. Unlike the current IDR repay plan, the SAVE plan doesn't do this, it doesn't do this. So they've had 3 negatives to make 1 positive. I didn't understand it. We all had to spend some time understanding exactly what it meant. So we need to be very clear to our students. NASFA is making a recommendation. Institutions need to find a way to do this, because you cannot depend upon servicers. The servicers have gotten a fees cut. Nelnet laid off 850 people because the department unilaterally cut their fees. So we have to do a lot of this ourselves. Now we have to help our students reconnect with their federal servicers. How do we have to do that? We have to get info to the student on how to get their FSA, what their FSA ID is, and how to get on studentaid.gov. Then they have to get information on repayment plans, and we need to include current students and those about to graduate. I know my son does not know his FSA ID. I don't think he even knows studentaid.gov is the website where he goes and looks at his student loans. So I know I make my son look really ridiculous, but he's not here. So we need to do that. Schools need to do that. And how you're going to do all of that is really the challenge, because I know most of us don't have the resources, and all of us are working on the enrollment cliff and how to keep our students in school to avoid that enrollment cliff snowballing into a whole lot of other issues. Then we have to service them. How do you service them? We have some recommendations. And a lot of that is technology. We can push all of our students towards self-service management of student loans on studentaid.gov. The department has Adam, I think, who's the AI chatbot that kind of comes up and says, I can help you on how to get your FSA ID and everything else. When I need information on anything a federal agency is doing, I just usually use Google and go somewhere else and find it. So I don't know how successful it's been, but it is a first stop for students, is studentaid.gov. Then connect with their federal servicers. But when you have 15 million students that are with new servicers, it is very likely 50% of all of your students are affected by that. All of them. And almost 100% of everybody that's leaving school that's left school between March of this year, and they're going to leave school by September of next year, two cohorts, they're definitely going to be affected because the servicers are not going to touch them, because none of them are going to become delinquent until next year. And when they do, the delinquency and default rate is going to spike for all of us. Here are our recommended options. Federal servicers only. A federal servicer will provide all of your students with an aggregated dashboard. They can then make phone calls. They can enter into a repayment plan by filling out their checking information, but they have to talk to somebody in order to be approved on anything but the public service loan forgiveness program. They have to get approval on IDR. 2+ hours of wait time is what GAO projected in August of 22 when they interviewed servicers. And at that time, repayment was supposed to start on December 1st. So that problem hasn't gone away because more students have entered the pipeline for repayment. We have web now. I'm going to unashamedly say this because this will work for almost all of us. You can provide a web portal, a third-party servicer web portal. Ion Tuition is a third-party servicer and have been since the requirement came in 2014. You can give them the aggregated dashboards. You can give them the federal servicers because we connect with federal servicers. We can give them the Ion Tuition web portal. You can get it in their hands before they even leave your institution. They also get online self-service repayment management. They can do this on the Ion portal and not have to deal with all the federal servicers. And this, if you do it early enough, is less expensive because it's completely technology driven. Then you can do one more thing. You can add our new tool called Presto. We're the only ones that offer it, where a student can enter into repayment on income-driven any program on IDR electronically and online. They never have to make a phone call to a federal servicer. And then your most comprehensive coverage, this is not going to be different with anybody. There are 1 or 2 other companies that do this work. If you send us an email, we'll tell you who they are. We're very confident in the work we do and the performance basis under which we do it. So comprehensive. Here's where you may have to think about this. Do you want to wait until somebody becomes delinquent? Do you want to wait until somebody exits their grace period before you start more aggressive servicing so they don't become delinquent or defaulted? That's the decision you make as you go through this as you go to this continuum. Start here and keep accelerating it for high-risk students. And we can project who your high-risk students are. More than enough information on students that we've serviced over the last 10 to 12 years. That's what people can do on loan management. We use risk models and focus on high-risk students. So we have 37 million transactions with individual students at individual transactions. We can plan the repayment. We can connect them with live counselors. We also have the chat bot and the AI, but we have a live person that will talk to your students. And I think the SLAs are answer the phone in 5 rings or less and have somebody not have a hold time of more than a minute and a half, even during peak hours. There's Presto. Presto is online. Anybody that's an approved user on Ion Tuition, you can go on Presto, put in, your personal information is already there. Your loan information is already there. You can put in your income, your family size, where you live, and upload your tax information. It gives you all of your different options. So right there on the screen to compare, you select one and you say, send my information to the servicer. And you're done. 10 days later, you get approved for your new IDR plan. The student has never spoken to anybody at the federal servicer, and it goes through the servicer, comes back with the approval, and the student can track what's going on. Those are our recommendations. I've also told you what we do as a best practice, and some of you are our clients, and you already know that we're doing it for you, and it works. So that's why we're sharing it. We're very open about everything we do. And I wouldn't say we're doing this and it works especially when my current clients are there. So you know that there's no exaggeration here, right, Mr. Stamp? Here he goes. Thank you, Jeff. This is Ion's experience. This is over a period of time, average number of calls monthly. 4.7 million students that have gone through our platform and our services. Most of them, if not all of them, have been part of our overall comprehensive coverage, not just the Ion Tuition platform coverage, comprehensive everything. 37 million minutes, and over $11 billion of loans cured. If a borrower is delinquent, we have put them back to current over the years. That's $11 billion. We're very happy with what work we've done for colleges. These are dashboards. We have dashboards that you can have real time. It'll be on Tableau, and you can give us certain workflows, customizations for what you want to do for your students. And we can track not just how we're doing and what our communication strategy is and how it's working. We can also tell you how the servicers are doing for your students. Not many people can do that. We have that kind of reporting. So that's what we do. Happy to answer any question, any other information you want to look at. And I'm done.